I'm a doctor. My estranged dad was my patient. His secret stunned me. Then my phone rang. I'm James Carter, a doctor in Seattle, Washington. My life's been steady, predictable, until 3 weeks ago. I was scanning my patient list at Harborview Medical Center when a name stopped me cold. Michael Hayes, my father, a man I hadn't seen or spoken to in 30 years. My heart raced, palms sweaty. It had to be a coincidence, right? Seattle's a big city. Plenty of people share names, but deep down, something told me it wasn't. Growing up, I knew Michael only through my mother's stories. She called him a lost soul, a drug dealer who got her hooked before I was born. The moment I came into this world, he signed away his parental rights. Gone, like I was nothing. I carried that weight through childhood, a hole where a father should have been. In my teens, I tried reaching out. Once, he agreed to meet me at a diner in Tacoma. I sat there for 2 hours, staring at an empty booth, feeling like a fool. After that, I swore I'd never chase him again. But there I was, staring at his name on my schedule. My stomach churned as I pictured his face, a face I only knew from a faded photo on my grandparents' nightstand. Would I recognize him? Would he know me? I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on my other patients. Broken bones, flu cases, routine checkups, anything to keep my mind off him. When the appointment time came, I called his name in the waiting room. My voice shook. A man stood up, tall, graying hair, eyes like mine. It was him, no doubt. He walked into my office unaware and sat down. I forced a smile, pretending he was just another patient. My hands trembled as I checked his chart. High blood pressure, chest pain, routine stuff. But his voice, deep, gravelly, hit me like a freight train. It was the first time I'd ever heard it. I asked about his symptoms, keeping it professional. He answered calmly, oblivious to who I was. My chest tightened. 30 years of anger, questions, and pain flooded me. Why did he leave? Did he ever think about me? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Not yet. I scribbled notes, avoiding his gaze. His eyes lingered on me, like he sensed something. Or maybe I was imagining it. Halfway through, I excused myself. I bolted to the bathroom, locked the door, and let it out. Tears streamed down my face. I gripped the sink, staring at my reflection. I wasn't a kid anymore, but I felt like one small, abandoned, raw. I splashed water on my face, took a deep breath, and went back. Michael didn't suspect a thing. I finished the exam, prescribed meds, and sent him on his way. But as he left, I stood frozen, wondering if I'd just let my only chance slip by. Back in my office, I sat frozen, Michael's chart still open on my desk. His voice echoed in my head, calm, steady, like he hadn't shattered my world 30 years ago. I tried to focus on the next patient, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every word he'd said during the exam replayed, slicing through me. I'd spent my life hating a ghost, and now that ghost was real, sitting in my exam room, clueless about who I was. I fumbled through the rest of my appointments, barely present. A kid with a fever, an elderly woman with arthritis. My mind wasn't on them. It was on him, on the way his eyes crinkled, just like mine, on the way he'd left me without a word. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped into the staff bathroom, locked the door, and let it all out. I sobbed, hard, like a dam had burst. Memories flooded in my mom crying at night, me asking why my dad didn't want me. I was 7 again, small and helpless. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to pull myself together. My reflection stared back, eyes red, jaw tight. I'm a doctor, damn it. I save lives. I don't fall apart. But this was different. This was personal. I dried my hands, took a deep breath, and went back to work, forcing a smile for my patients. That night, I got home to our small house in Capitol Hill. Sarah, my wife, was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. It's him, I said, voice barely above a whisper. My dad. He was my patient today. Sarah's knife stopped mid-chop. She sat beside me, her hand on mine. James, what? How? I told her everything, the appointment, his voice, the way I almost lost it. She listened, her face a mix of shock and concern. This could be your chance, she said softly, to get answers, to find closure, or maybe to build something. I shook my head. Closure? With him? He left us, Sarah. He chose drugs over me. My voice cracked, anger bubbling up. He didn't even show up to that diner when I was 16. Why would I give him a chance now? Sarah squeezed my hand. You don't have to decide tonight. Just think about it. You've carried this pain for so long. Maybe talking to him could lighten it. Her words made sense, but my heart wasn't ready. I'd built walls around that pain, and letting him in felt like betrayal to my mom, to the kid I used to be. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling fan. Could I face him? Could I look into those eyes and not scream? I didn't know. All I knew was that seeing Michael had cracked something open inside me, and I wasn't sure if I could close it again. The next day at Harborview, I was a mess. My head spun with memories of Michael, his voice, his eyes, the way he'd walked out of my life. I tried to focus on my patients, but every chart, every clipboard felt like a distraction from the storm inside me. As I moved through the hospital corridors, I couldn't shake him. His face kept merging with that old photo on my grandparents' nightstand, the one I'd stare at as a kid, wondering why he didn't want me. In the pediatric wing, I saw a father and his young son, maybe 8, laughing over a silly joke. The boy's eyes lit up, his dad ruffling his hair. It hit me like a punch. That could have been me. Should have been me. I turned away, my throat tight, and moved moved to the next room. But then, in the waiting area, I overheard a teenage boy yelling at his dad. "You're never there!" he snapped, storming off. The father stood there, defeated. My stomach twisted. Was that what I'd get if I reached out to Michael? Another fight? Another letdown? I thought about that diner in Tacoma, 16 years old, waiting for him. I'd worn my best shirt, practiced what I'd say. He never showed. I walked home alone, rain soaking through my jacket, swearing I'd never give him another chance. Now, here he was, back in my life, and I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but another part, the kid who sat in that diner, wanted to run. During a break, I sat in the cafeteria, picking at a sandwich. A memory hit me. I was 10, at a school Father's Day event in Portland. All the other kids had their dads. I had my mom, trying to smile through her embarrassment. I'd drawn a picture of a man I'd never met, pretending he was there. That hole in my chest never really went away. It just filled with resentment, heavy and cold. I saw another patient, a father comforting his daughter after a tough diagnosis, his hand on her shoulder, his voice steady. I envied her. Then, an elderly man came in alone. No family, no visitors. He reminded me of Michael, isolated, carrying his choices like a weight. Was that his life now? Had he chosen that loneliness? I begged for a sign, something to tell me what to do. But the world kept giving me mixed signals: love, anger, connection, distance. By the end of my shift, I was drained. I leaned against a wall in the empty hallway, staring at my shoes. I could keep ignoring Michael, let him fade back into a stranger. Or I could face him, risk the pain, and maybe find something worth saving. My heart pounded. I didn't know if I was ready, but I knew I couldn't keep running forever. A week later, Michael was back for a follow-up at Harborview. My hands shook as I pulled up his chart. I'd spent days wrestling with what to do: ignore him or confront him. Sarah's words echoed, "You'll never know unless you try." I took a deep breath and called him into my office. He sat down, same graying hair, same eyes like mine. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Michael," I said, my voice low. "I'm James, your son." His face froze. For a moment, he just stared, eyes wide, like he'd seen a ghost. Then softly he said, "I know. I've known since I walked in here." My heart stopped. He knew? All this time, he'd sat there, acting like a stranger? I clenched my fists, anger rising. "Why didn't you say anything?" I demanded, my voice sharp. He looked down at his hands, fingers twisting. "I didn't want to force it, James. I thought you should come to me when you were ready." His voice was quiet, almost broken. I didn't expect that. I expected denial, excuses, maybe anger. Not this. I leaned back, my chest tight. "You left me," I said. "You left Mom. You were her dealer, Michael. You got her hooked, then walked away the day I was born." He flinched, like I'd hit him. "I was a mess back then," he said, eyes on the floor. "Young, scared, drowning in my own demons. I thought leaving was the best thing I could do for you both." I laughed, bitter. "Best thing? You left me without a father. I waited for you at that diner in Tacoma. 2 hours, Michael. I was 16. You didn't show." His face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw shame. Real shame. "I was a coward," he admitted. "I couldn't face you. I didn't know how to fix what I'd broken." My throat burned. I wanted to scream, to throw something. Instead, I sat there, silent, the air heavy between us. "Why now?" I asked finally. "Why walk into my life like this?" He met my eyes, his voice steady, but sad. "I didn't plan it. I saw your name on the appointment. I came anyway, hoping maybe this was my chance." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I don't know if I can do this," I said. "I've hated you for so long." He nodded, like he understood. "That's fair," he said. "I don't expect forgiveness. I'm here, James. If you ever want to talk." I stood, signaling the end of the appointment. "I'll think about it," I muttered. He got up, hesitated, then walked out. I sank into my chair, head in my hands. My anger was still there, raw and sharp, but his words stuck with me. He didn't deny it. He didn't run. For the first time, I wondered if he was more than the monster I'd built in my head. The days after confronting Michael were a blur. I threw myself into work at Harborview, stitching wounds, writing prescriptions, anything to keep my mind off him. But he was there, in every quiet moment, his words replaying. "I'm here, James, if you ever want to talk." I didn't know if I could. The anger I'd carried for 30 years was a heavy chain, and I wasn't sure I could unlock it. At home, Sarah noticed my distraction. I'd stare at my coffee, barely hearing her talk about her day. One night, over dinner in our Capitol Hill kitchen, she set her fork down and looked at me. "James, you can't keep running from this," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "You faced him once. Maybe it's time to see what's possible." I sighed, rubbing my temples. What if I let him in, and he hurts me again? I can't go back to that diner, Sarah. She reached across the table, her hand warm on mine. "You're not that kid anymore. You're stronger now. Forgiveness isn't about him, it's about you letting go." Her words hit hard. I'd spent so long hating Michael, but maybe holding on to that hate was hurting me more. I lay awake that night, her voice in my head. Could I give him a chance? Could I risk it? The next morning, I pulled Michael's file. His number was there, staring at me. My finger hovered over my phone. Before I could overthink it, I dialed. He picked up on the second ring. "James?" His voice was cautious, hopeful. I swallowed hard. "Want to grab coffee? Tomorrow, maybe? There's a place near Pike Place Market." He paused, then said, "I'd like that." We met at a small cafe, the air thick with roasted coffee and sea salt from the nearby waterfront. I got there early, my stomach in knots. Michael walked in, wearing a worn jacket, looking nervous. We ordered black coffee for me, tea for him and sat by the window. It was awkward at first. Small talk about the weather, the city. Then he said, "I'm glad you called, James. I didn't think you would." I looked at him, really looked. Not as the man who abandoned me, but as a person flawed, tired, trying. "I don't know what this is," I admitted, my voice low. "I'm still angry, but I want to understand." He nodded, his eyes soft. "That's more than I deserve." We talked for an hour, haltingly. He shared bits of his life, odd jobs, years of regret. I shared pieces of mine, med school, Sarah, my work. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. Driving home, I felt lighter, like a weight had shifted. I didn't trust him yet, but I saw him differently. Not a monster, just a man who'd made mistakes. For the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, we could build something from the ashes of our past. Over the next few weeks, Michael and I met regularly at that cafe near Pike Place. Each time, the air felt a little less heavy. We talked about small things, his love for old jazz records, my long shifts at Harborview. But one rainy afternoon, as we sat with steaming mugs, he leaned forward, his face serious. "James, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice low. My stomach tightened. I knew this was coming, but I wasn't ready. He took a deep breath, eyes fixed on his tea. "When I left, it wasn't just about my addiction. I owed money, $10,000 to some bad people in Portland. Drug dealers, loan sharks. I was in deep, and they weren't the kind you say no to." I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. "I didn't leave just because I was a mess," he continued. "I left to keep you and your mom safe. If I'd stayed, they would have come after us." His words hit like a punch. All these years, I'd pictured him walking away, careless, heartless. Now he was saying he left to protect us? I set my cup down, hard. "You could have fought," I said, my voice sharp. "You could have gotten clean, stayed, been a father." He winced, nodding. "I know. I was scared, James. I thought leaving was the only way. It wasn't right, but it's what I did." I stared out the window, rain streaking the glass. Part of me wanted to scream, to call him a coward, but another part felt the weight of his choice, the fear he must have carried. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, my throat tight. He looked at me, eyes full of regret. "I was ashamed. I didn't want you to know how low I'd fallen, but I never stopped thinking about you. Every day, I wished I could have come back." The air felt thick, heavy with 30 years of pain. I wanted to hate him, but I couldn't, not fully. He wasn't just the man who'd abandoned me. He was a man who'd been broken, who'd made a choice he thought was right, even if it wasn't. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, voice shaking, "but I'm starting to understand." He nodded, his face softening. "That's more than I could hope for." We sat in silence, the rain drumming outside. For the first time, I felt a crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. It hurt, but it also felt like release. I wasn't ready to call him Dad, but I was ready to keep talking, to keep peeling back the layers of our past. Maybe that was enough for now. Michael slowly became part of my life. He came to my medical conference in Seattle, clapping proudly when I spoke. We shared dinners at our Capitol Hill home, Sarah smiling as he told stories of his old jazz days. One evening, on a park bench overlooking Puget Sound, the sunset painting the sky orange, he turned to me. "James," he said, his voice soft, "I'm proud of the man you've become." My throat tightened. I'd waited 30 years to hear those words. Tears stung my eyes, but I just nodded. "Thanks," I managed. His health was shaky, though. One night, I sat by his hospital bed at Harborview, the monitors beeping steadily. He'd had a scare, a chest pain episode. I watched him sleep, his face worn but peaceful. I realized how fragile this was, how little time we might have. Sarah was my rock, reminding me to cherish what we were building. "Family's messy," she said, squeezing my hand, "but it's worth it." We kept meeting, sharing holidays, small moments. He met my colleagues, asked about my patients, showed up in ways I never expected. One afternoon, in my living room, he looked at me, serious. "There's more I haven't told you," he said. My heart sank, bracing for another blow. "When I left, it wasn't just the debt. I stole from those dealers. They threatened to come after you and your mom. I ran to keep you safe." His voice broke. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, James. I just need you to know I never stopped loving you." I sat there, stunned. The anger I'd carried felt lighter, not gone, but different. Forgiveness wasn't forgetting, it was letting go of the weight. We weren't perfect, but we were building something real. As he smiled at me, I felt peace, a closure I hadn't known I needed. The future was uncertain, but for now, we had this.